You are listening to The Orchid, The Secret Code of Modern Goddesses, written by Rocio Aquino and Angel Arengo, narrated by Robin McAlpine. Dedication. To all who journey through these pages, may you be inspired to rewrite your own narrative and live a life of love, free of limitations and enriched by the knowledge that you are powerful beyond belief. Part 1, Introduction. Chapter 1, Mary. Mary had been raised right. She was the only child of devoted parents who saw that she wanted for nothing. Shopping trips for seasonal wardrobes, travel to Europe in the summer, piano and French lessons with the best tutors, a horse of her own to practice jumps and dressage, ballroom dance and etiquette instruction, and a room fit for a princess with a white canopy bed and a zoo full of stuffed animals. When she was older, Mary was sent to finishing school, where she would learn how to plan a dinner party for 20, enough about classical music and opera to hold her own in any conversation, and how to manage a staff of servants. Mary was expected to make the most of her physical assets, good manners, and breeding to complement her future husband, but not to ever challenge or overshadow him. She was to greet him at the door with a chilled martini, listen devotedly to how his day unfolded, cheer him up when he was down, bear him at least 2 perfect children, one should be male to inherit his father's business empire, and never complain. It was to be a fairy tale life. To Mary, it seemed like a shiny prison. Mary was bored to tears by her upbringing and wanted to break free, see the world, have some adventure, and find a man who was dashing, daring, and a little dangerous. But instead, she found herself studying art history at Smith College, one of the famous Seven Sisters schools where women were expected to pass the time until they earned the only degree that truly meant anything, the MRS, which referred to women who got engaged or married while pursuing higher education. Then they could quietly retire to one of the white clapboard houses in the wealthy residential communities of Westchester, Greenwich, or Boston's Back Bay, learn to play bridge, and wait for their husband to come home from the law firm or bank, where he's now an up-and-coming junior partner, a young man to keep an eye on. But times were changing. The pill had been introduced in 1960, freeing women to have sex for pleasure, not just procreation. The war in Vietnam had attracted thousands of young people to protest marches and sit-ins. Everyone was smoking pot or trying psychedelics, and to be sitting in a stuffy classroom surrounded by other rich girls seemed to be a colossal waste of time. Mary wanted more. She wanted to live. She wanted experiences and challenges and to make a mark on the world. She was on fire with youthful idealism and ready to buck her upbringing and throw her fate to the wind to see what destiny would bring her. What it brought her was Michael. She met him at a protest sit-in when he plopped down beside her on the ground. He had wild, uncombed long hair, a scruffy beard, and the bluest eyes she'd ever seen. As the afternoon passed, between chants, they talked for hours. Michael was a graduate student at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, there on a full scholarship. He was some sort of technical genius. He had ideas, big ideas, and he was working on RSS security messages that at present were only sent from university to university, but would soon be the way everyone communicated. The messages were called emails, and Michael believed that they needed to be protected, encrypted like the coded messages sent during World War II, except for private use. Letter writing was on the way out. Michael was creating encryption keys and planning on opening his own company in his parents' garage in Quincy, near Boston. Then he was going to change the way everyone in the world spoke to everyone else. He would help control the flow of information across the globe. Mary didn't really understand everything he said, but she was attracted to his passion, romantically and intellectually. Here was the man to whom she could hitch her wagon. He was going to be a star. She just knew it. Their relationship grew strong in a very short period. Mary spent many late nights listening to Michael talk about how technology was going to bring the whole world together. No more would kids around the world have to starve because they didn't have the same educational opportunities as kids in the States. Now, all information could be shared for free and almost instantly. During his last year in graduate school, Michael talked up his company, MFE Industries, which stood for Michael's Foolproof Encryptions, to everyone and convinced enough students to kick in a few bucks, assuring them that as initial investors, they'd make their money back 100-fold once he got going. Mary, who by now was convinced that her Michael was going to change the world, chipped in all of her allowance, which her parents kept increasing at her request, not knowing the money wasn't going to beauty salons, shopping, or school supplies. After Michael's graduation, Mary decided to drop out of school to help him build his company. So, after her sophomore year ended, she told her parents that she wouldn't be coming with them to Europe over the summer, that she was interning at an art gallery in Boston and staying with friends. She loved her parents, but lying came easily when her future was unfolding before her eyes. The couple went to live with Michael's parents, who let Mary stay in the visitor's room across the hall from Michael's and turned a blind eye toward nocturnal visits between the two. During the day, they rigged used transistors, miles of cable, many extension cords, and more in the garage. While Michael worked on writing code and inventing a reliable encryption method to safeguard information sent and received via the infant computer network, they had to leave the door open and fans blowing to keep the equipment from overheating. Word of their work got out fast, and when Michael was asked to speak at scientific conferences, Mary helped write his talks. He provided the tech details, and she did her best to make them understandable. She even drew MFE's first logo for the front of brochures she designed to lure investors and for business cards for Michael to hand out at conferences. The fledgling company got its own phone line, and Mary answered all calls as if the company were ensconced in a glass office tower somewhere instead of a dirty, hot garage in suburban Boston. But it all started to come together, and Michael won a large grant to fund his work. Mary wrote the prospectus. Real investors started sending money, and soon MFE Industries was a serious company. In no time, Michael began acting as a consultant for companies who saw the writing on the wall regarding the new high-tech world. It was all very exciting, working side by side all day, squeezing into Michael's childhood twin bed at night to make love until the wee hours, and then talking over endless cups of coffee about how to build their dreams in the morning. Mary's parents, unaware of all that was happening until the school informed them that she had dropped out, were quite upset at Mary's duplicity. They demanded to meet this Michael, and so she brought him to their home for dinner one night. Her parents grilled him about his upbringing, his family, his bank balance, and his prospects. Her father asked him point blank what his intentions were toward his daughter, and Mary was quite surprised when he answered, "I love her. We're getting married." But his declaration changed nothing. Mary's parents had already dismissed Michael as a dirty hippie and predicted a dire outcome if Mary stayed with him. They also threatened to cut her off and leave her without a dime if she did. But Mary would not be deterred, and so, without her parents' approval, she and Michael married one Saturday at the courthouse with two strangers as witnesses. The first few years were tough as the young couple poured every penny they could get their hands on back into the business. They ate a lot of canned tuna and lived with Michael's parents, but then the tide turned and money started pouring in. They bought a townhouse in Boston and a commercial building in Worcester to house MFE. Their staff grew to hundreds of people, and the government contracts they were awarded funded expansion after expansion. Michael became renowned as an expert in computer encryption, and Mary became the vice president of worldwide marketing. They were very happy together, and when baby Julia came along, their little family seemed complete. Mary set up a crib and playpen right in her office, and Julia spent her early years on the hip of either parent as they moved from meeting to meeting. She became the unofficial mascot of the company. Luckily, she was a good-natured child with an even temperament, always smiling, and she grew into a lovely girl who adored both her parents. For the next 12 years, the company flourished, and Julia and her mother became inseparable. Julia was helpful, naturally polite, somewhat shy, and steady as a rock. Mary was much more emotional. She was quick to anger, she did not suffer fools gladly, got highly offended when anyone criticized her husband, no matter how mildly, and was so fervently in love with Michael that it was almost hard for people to watch. Working by his side, being his sounding board and confidant, helping him manage the business, and raising their daughter was all she ever wanted in life. Mary's dream for her future had come true. For his part, Michael left his dirty hippie days behind him. His beard was gone, his hair was now cut by a renowned Italian stylist, and he wore tailored suits. He had even taken up jogging, a new pastime sweeping the nation. It was while running through the park one evening that he met Patty. She was in her final year at Boston University School of Law and show-stoppingly beautiful. Patty's parents lived in the area, and she was at her parents' home for the weekend. Her long black hair fell over her face as she sat on the ground crying and rubbing her ankle. She had twisted it on a cobblestone, and Michael stopped to help. She stood up with difficulty, threw her arm around his neck, and tried to hobble along. When that proved too painful, he offered to drive her to her parents' house a few blocks away. Patty called him my hero. When Michael dropped by a few days later to check on her recovery, he had taken off his wedding ring. It all happened so fast, Mary never saw it coming. Michael announced one night that he was going to divorce her. He would split the now considerable company profits and buy out Mary's stock shares. She would be rich, set for life, with plenty of money to take care of their 12-year-old daughter. He gave her full custody as he planned to have more kids soon enough. Mary was more than heartbroken. She felt shattered, and she sobbed night after night for months. Julia was frightened watching her parents' marriage fall apart and her mother crumbling as a result. Eventually, being in the same town with Michael became too much for Mary. She couldn't stand seeing photos of him and his new girlfriend at social functions that she and Michael had been too busy to attend. When the engagement announcement appeared in the newspaper, Mary knew she had to get out of town. She withdrew Julia from school, reinvested all of her wealth in the burgeoning computer industry, and began traveling to all corners of the world, searching for a surcease to her pain. She wasn't sure exactly of what she was looking for, but she tried all sorts of healing methods and practices with the hope that the pain would subside. During her journey, Mary sought wisdom from diverse spiritual and wellness practices. She immersed herself in the tranquility of meditation and yoga and practiced it in both silence and darkness for weeks at a time. She tapped into the harmony of her body and mind, further accessed by acupuncture and Tai Chi. Studying the principles of feng shui, she fostered a sense of balance with her surroundings. Her exploration extended to Reiki, chanting, and the use of mantras, while she also delved into sound healing, chakra alignment, and the principles of energetic frequencies. Mary accessed the profound wisdom of Aboriginal dream time in the Australian outback and experienced the purifying power of the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono prayer. Her adventurous spirit led her to swim alongside majestic marine creatures, commune with monkeys while sleeping in treetop huts high up in rainforest canopies, and learn gentleness with strength while feeding tamarind to the massive elephants of northern Thailand. Ascensions to ancient sacred sites broadened her perspective. Her travels in Egypt were particularly transformative. Along with many meditations inside the pyramids, Mary devoted significant time to visiting archaeological wonders, exploring temples, and immersing herself in the rich tapestry of their culture. This nurtured a profound respect for the wisdom of ancient civilizations. Continuing her journey, living with indigenous tribes further enhanced her understanding of diverse cultures. Sitting with shamans and native healers, she experienced their powerful, time-honored practices firsthand. She discovered the transformative power of medicines found in plants and fungi, deepening her bond with the natural world. Mary later learned about the cleansing rituals of the Temescal ceremony held in a sweat lodge, the emotional liberation of art therapy, and the tapping system known as the Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT. She dove into the insightful domains of spiritual psychology and navigated through enlightened models of human development and consciousness. Her journey also led her to explore mindfulness and compassionate communication practices, improving her self-awareness and interpersonal relationships. Mary was drawn to the therapeutic properties of natural elements and experienced the rejuvenating effects of thermal waters, mud and ice baths, holy wells, and hay saunas. Her curiosity about the human mind led her to explore diverse therapies ranging from Freudian and Jungian psychoanalysis to hypnosis and past life regression. Consultations with mystics, astrologers, tarot readers, and crystal healers enriched her knowledge of esoteric wisdom. She studied ancient religions and prayed at many historically significant shrines, lighting candles, leaving offerings, and always asking for clarity and for her purpose to be shown to her. Dietary exploration was also a part of her journey as she practiced a raw foods diet, breatharianism, veganism, prolonged fasting, and Ayurvedic nutrition. Mary's journey represented a quest for inner growth, healing, and harmony. In exploring such a myriad of practices, she found a deeper understanding of herself and the world, highlighting the interconnectedness of her mind, body, and spirit. She was searching for relief from her pain, and what she found was much greater. The overwhelming message she received from all of her exploration and experiences was that the universe was love, and that awareness, gratefulness, forgiveness, and acceptance were necessary so as not to block that love. She learned that she was enough, a spiritual being who came forth from love to be loved. Like a mother loves her child, so the universe loved Mary, and at last she understood. She knew that she needed to help other women find what she had found. They may be unable to discover the knowledge that Mary had found through the teachers and therapies that she sought out while traveling the world, but she could bring the world to them. A profound thought began to take shape in Mary's mind. One night, 10 years later, she sat with her daughter Julia, who, from an early age as her mother's traveling companion, had absorbed spiritual wisdom far beyond her years. As they talked late into the night, staring into a fire before them, Mary shared her nascent idea with Julia. What if we could gather an array of teachers and healers from all over the globe and place them in one single location? Mary said haltingly, as though she were listening for the first time herself to the words formed on her tongue. There they could exchange ideas and co-create the most powerful laboratory of personal healing and transformation the world has ever seen. She continued, her voice rising with excitement. It would be a safe and sacred place where women could come to learn how to achieve a radical shift in consciousness and mindset, and through that shift, experience fuller and more fulfilled lives. They could then take what they learned and share that knowledge with others, creating an ever-widening circle of higher consciousness where ever more women would understand and experience universal love. As Julia's eyes grew wider, seeing the vision her mother was describing, Mary looked at her daughter and knew that she must build such a place for the woman Julia was becoming and for all the women being born into a world too often narrow and blind to the glorious truths the universe could reveal. It was her destiny, Mary now knew. She would build this sacred and beautiful place, and she would name it the Orchid. With the business acumen Mary had built over her years with MFE Industries, her nearly inexhaustible supply of money, which thanks to the meteoric growth of the computer industry in which she had invested, now exceeded $1 billion, and her equally inexhaustible passion for the work, her vision became a reality. Healers, teachers, and practitioners from all around the world were chosen, offered handsome compensation and the freedom to design their own programs, and invited to reside at the Orchid. From all over the globe they came, inspired by Mary's mission of love. Once the Orchid was receiving visitors, Mary began to see the power of what she had created. All of the women who passed through its loving and supportive environment and became familiar with the many tools and methods taught at this unique educational facility began to experience change. Not everyone responded the same way, but because there were so many modalities available, everyone always found at least one with which they could connect. Just as in Mary's own life, the cumulative effect of the knowledge and collaboration of all the teachers and healers was what was needed to create a meaningful impact for every woman who attended. The Orchid has been transforming lives for more than 20 years.
Thank you for listening to Chapter 1 of The Orchid, The Secret Code of Modern Goddesses. If you've enjoyed it, we invite you to purchase a copy of the electronic, physical, or audio version of the book, which is available at all major platforms, including Amazon, Apple Books, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, Audible, and more. We also invite you to visit theorchidbook.com for more information and to stay connected to the authors and the Orchid's message. Thank you for your time.